So when you look at this image looks a little tilted or crooked. So let's select the crop tool, the shortcut to which is C. You can also click right here, but always remember shortcuts. And how do you find the shortcuts? If you click and hold, it just says right there. For example, the shortcut for the brush tool, you click and hold, it says right there. That is B. Crop tool is C. All right. Now, once the crop tool is selected, at the top, you have the straighten button right here. Click on that and draw a straight line along the thing which should have been straight. So I'm going to create a straight line along this. And this is about straight. It was showing 0 degrees. So what is crooked? Let's go back to how it was. So what is really crooked? As you can see, the mat is crooked. The horizon is straight, but the mat is crooked. How do we fix this? First of all, let us make a copy of the background layer. And here's the first basic function. How do we duplicate a layer? We simply do that by pressing Ctrl or Command J. We make a copy of the layer that was selected. Again, I'm going to repeat that again for you. Select the background layer or any layer you want to create a duplicate of and press Ctrl or Command J. Now, another long way of doing that, if you're charging by the hour, is simply going to Layer, New, and choose Layer via Copy. Have a look at the shortcut, Ctrl or Command J. There you go. Now, here's another basic function. If you apply any filter to it by going to Filter, let's say Noise and add Noise. Let's add a lot of noise. It is burned into the pixels. You cannot reduce the filters later. You cannot change the values later. So you're stuck. So how do we fix this? First of all, let's go back by pressing Ctrl or Command Z or Z. Now right click on that layer and choose Convert to Smart Object, or you can also go to Filter and choose Convert for Smart Filters. Both will do the same thing and it will convert the layer into a smart object. Hit OK. Now we're going to discuss the advantages of smart objects later, but one of the major advantage is that if you add any filter, in this case, let's go to Noise and then add Noise again, hit OK. It adds as a smart filter. Now you can double click on it and change the value to whatever you like. You can also delete the smart filter by dragging it and dropping it to the trash can, right? And that's also how you delete a layer. So another basic function, how do we delete a layer? Let's drag it and drop it into the trash can. One more way of deleting the layer is simply selecting the layer and pressing the delete key. It also deletes the layer. And yes, of course, with the layer selected, you can click on the trash can icon. It also deletes it, but it shows up this warning. If you don't want to see it, check don't show again and click on yes to take it away. So again, let's press Ctrl or Command J to make a copy and let's name this layer Fixed. We'll fix it. Now let's convert this layer into a smart object by going to Filter, Convert for Smart Filters, hit OK. Now let's apply a filter that is so amazing that there can be a class for it. Let's go to Filter and that is the Camera Raw Filter. Now of course you have all of those basic functions like exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, and all of that. Let's collapse these settings for now. Scroll down and go to Geometry. And inside of that, click on this button right here. Now we know that this is straight, so draw a straight line across it. There you go. And we want to straighten this thing. So let's draw a straight line across this one. And it will make it straight. Hit OK once you're satisfied. And the best part is this is a smart filter. You can double click on it and change the stuff right here. Click on Draw Guides and you can change the lines. Let's hit cancel for now. Now to put the text behind, we have to have the subject at the top. So let's make a copy of the fixed layer. Press Ctrl or Command J and let's name this layer Subject. Now we want to simply mask out the background from this one so that only the subject stays. So let's select any of these three selection tools, the magic tool, the quick selection, or the object selection tool. And once you do, at the top, you will see select subject. Click on that and it will make a pretty good selection of the subject. However, it's not very accurate. So to make it more accurate, here's another tip for the later versions of Photoshop, and that is if you click on the drop down right next to select subject, you will have the option to process it in the cloud. So if you're not too concerned about privacy, it will be safe. I don't know, but it's up to you. Do it at your own risk. So choose cloud, click on select subject. It does a better selection and it creates a better result. So as you can see, it is better. Have a look at this. It is much better than the previous one. So once you have the selection active, you want to click on this button that creates a mask, or in other words, a cutout. So right here, as you can see, white are the areas that show up and black are the areas that hide. Right now, you cannot see it because other layers are turned on. But if you hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the eye and only keep that turned on, you can see it properly. As you can see, the subject is white, so you can see that, and the background is black, therefore you cannot see it. Let's turn everything back on. Hold the Alt key or the Option key. Click on the eye. Now, just behind this, we want our text. By the way, if you don't want to see the smart filters, if you want to just hide it in, click on this arrow right there. There you go, hidden. Let's select the layer beneath it, choose the text tool, and click to type in. Now, it's very small. Let's make it larger like this so that we can see as we type. Type in stay centered. All right, let's make it larger. Select the Move tool, press Ctrl or Command D, and let's make it larger like that. Now, this is behind the subject, but there's an issue. The background is too bright and we cannot even see the text. So how do we create an adjustment so that all of the layers under it become darker? Simply by creating an adjustment layer. And how do we create an adjustment layer? Simply by clicking on the adjustment layer icon, which is this circle with half gray or white and half black. Click on that and then choose exposure for now. You can also choose curves. That is a little more advanced. For now, keep it simple and choose exposure. And we wanted it behind the text, so let's bring it behind the text and simply decrease the exposure. There you go, the text is now visible. Let's keep it 0.5 minus 0.5 and that's just perfect. Now the stay centered text definitely needs to stay centered, and how do we make that happen? We already learned about it in lesson 1, so after this video, if you haven't watched, watch that. Simply with the Move tool selected, make sure inside of the 3 dots, Align to Canvas is selected, and then you can center it according to the canvas. Right here, click on this button or click on this button to align it to the left. But right now, nothing is happening. You know why? Because the exposure layer is selected, not the stay centered layer. You can center it horizontally. You can align it to the left, to the right, center it vertically, up to you. So I'm going to set it to how it was. This way. Now let's add a little more text right here. Let's say this is a live class. And by the way, we want the subject to be centered as well. And for it, we have to stretch the image. Press C for the crop tool. And you want to make sure delete cropped pixels is checked off. We don't want to do that. And center it so that the subject is in the center. I stretched it a little bit. Now, what about the rest of the areas? Of course, you can fill it with a lot of tools that are coming up in Photoshop, but you know what? Nobody's going to notice. All you need to do is select the fixed layer where you had fixed it. Now, you should know that we cannot change the pixels of the smart object. So here's another basic function. Let's say you selected an area and this whole area, and you want this area to be on a separate layer all by itself. How do we make that happen? Once you make that selection, and we made that selection with the rectangular marquee tool, I'm going to do that again for you. So we selected the rectangular marquee tool and we made a selection with the fixed layer selected, and then pressed Ctrl or Command J. That is the same shortcut as creating a duplicate layer. And when you do have a selection, only that area goes into the other layer. Press Ctrl or Command T, and I want to stretch it, but if I try to do that, it just makes everything larger. So how do we make sure it doesn't maintain the aspect ratio? We hold the Shift key and then just stretch it. Trust me, nobody's going to notice unless you tell them this is perfect. Now again, of course, you have to center the stay centered text. So select that. With the Move tool selected, center it horizontally. Now let's add some more text right here. With the text tool selected, let's click right here. Let's say this is a live show. Let's type in Tuesdays at 7 a.m. maybe, or 8 a.m. up to you, whenever you wake up. Let's keep it that way and change the font. Double click on the T to select all of it. I'm going to have Poppins. It's one of my favorite fonts. Poppins Bold. This is nice. Press Ctrl or Command D with the Move tool selected. And let's make it smaller and set it right over here. Let's make it a little more smaller. There you go. You want to see all of it? This is perfect. Now we want to add a little more text on the right as well, and we want the same size. So again, another basic function. You can hold the Alt key or the Option key, click and drag. It makes a copy, and now you have a copy of that layer. Similarly, right here as well, you have the subject layer, right? If you hold the Alt key or the Option key, click and drag, you have another layer right here. All right. So that's the shortcut to do a copy. We want it to be on the same line, and double click on the T. Type in join us live. Live. There you are. Love is fine too. Let's have it on the right hand side. Double click on the T and let's have it some red color. Something like this is fine. Okay. Also, if you want to make sure everything is aligned properly, you can go to View and make sure Snap is checked, and you can snap to everything. So right now what happens is whenever you try to move something and something is in the same line, it will snap to it and it will indicate it with those pink lines. So I want this to be in the same line. There you go. Now they're in the same line. And once they're on the same line, you can hold the Shift key, and then when you move it, it moves in the same line. There you go. Now it snaps to the end of D as well properly.